Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on another New York Metro Weather Premium video. We are excited to join you and talk about the long-range pattern and how things are going to play out here over the next couple of weeks. It's getting into crunch time for those of you who are excited about fall and winter. We're starting to see some changes in the atmospheric pattern, and there's a lot going on here with the pattern, and we want to just kind of break down where we are now and where we are expecting things to go in the next couple of weeks without getting too detailed into the winter forecast that we're working on. So here we have the current pattern. And if you were to look at, just take a second to take a look, obviously you see Hurricane Nicole here, which will shift the northeast toward Bermuda. But let's take a look at the overall wind fields, not necessarily focusing on the lines or the energy, the color shading. Just look at the winds, and you can see there's really not too much amplification in this pattern. So this disturbance here, the winds are more west to east. And then if you look throughout most of the United States, we have a high pressure here in south central Texas, but most of the winds throughout the United States are west to east, which we call a progressive pattern. And if you continue to look here as we go towards even the middle part of next week, we do get a ridge of high pressure moving over the central United States, but by and large, these disturbances, this pattern is still progressive. West to east on the top of that, these disturbances moving over it, and a more broad trough here in the western Atlantic. And that's kind of going to be the theme. The pattern is going to remain progressive over the next couple of weeks, which really means that any large-scale disturbances or huge storms or anything like that will be unlikely as we move into the middle to latter part of October. Here we look at the height anomaly. So we talked about that high pressure in south central Texas, providing warmer than normal temperatures and higher than normal heights. Here's Nicole, which will shift towards Bermuda over the next couple of days. And you can see otherwise the pattern is pretty much west to east throughout the United States as we move towards the end of this week. While things do get more amplified by the end of next week, and we'll talk about that, the pattern all still overall remains fairly progressive. There's no big storm system, there's no huge ridge or trough, and while we will have above normal temperatures across much of the east from the plains to the east coast, there's no real big storms or huge impetus for dramatic weather or anything like that, which we do sometimes see in the fall. And here's the GFS again with the height anomalies as we look at that ridge that's going to build eastward here towards the end of this week and early next week. So here's the temperature anomalies. We'll talk about what's going on. So we have these colder than normal nights occurring in the northeast, and that will kind of remain the case over the next couple of days, and those temperature anomalies as a result will average slightly below normal on a 5-day average through the beginning of next week. Meanwhile, that ridge we talked about that's building over the central United States here, as we get more troughing in the west, we have a wave pattern, so a ridge in the east, and these above normal temperatures will begin to build through the Central Plains into the Corn Belt and towards the Ohio Valley. And as this troughiness and colder air in the east begins to shift away in the progressive pattern, things move pretty sequentially. That warmer than normal temperature anomaly area will shift towards the Ohio Valley, the Corn Belt again, and then the East Coast next week. This looks to be a fairly anomalous event. So while we don't have a huge ridge or a tremendous height anomaly there, temperatures are going to be running well above average for this time of year, where we don't often see this broad of an area of above normal temperatures. And the colder air will really stay bottled up here on the West Coast and in the Pacific Northwest. And that'll be the case essentially through the end of next week, which will bring us towards October 21st. So the big question now, we know that above normal temperatures and a fairly progressive pattern will continue. People are asking, when are things going to change? And are they going to change at all as we head towards the fall? There are some signs, without getting into too much detail, there are some signs of how things are going to change and what we expect to happen. And one of the things we look at is the Arctic Oscillation. And this gives us an idea of what's going on with the hemispheric pattern in the Arctic, which has a huge impact on what goes on in the continental United States. Now, check out how, and we obviously know the pattern has remained overall quite progressive for the last several months. And you could see it here. The Arctic Oscillation has oscillated, but stayed very close, a very comfortable level, slightly above normal, slightly above zero, essentially from June through the beginning of October, when it decided to take a nosedive. And this is important for a lot of reasons. First of all, it signals the development of a more active pattern. This coupled with a lot of things that are going on in the Pacific Ocean. Second of all, a large negative Arctic oscillation throughout the month of October is correlated to certain things in winter that tend to, I'm trying to say this without giving up too much away about our winter forecast, but a large negative Arctic oscillation in October tends to correlate to more active and snowy winters, especially east of the Mississippi River. So um, that's one thing to keep in mind moving forward. We talked about the Arctic Oscillation. Let me zoom this out here for a little bit. Here's that positive phase we were talking about, more of a progressive jet stream throughout North America, whereas a negative phase promotes higher pressures in the higher latitudes, blocking, and we see a more amplified jet stream, and that's something that we're going to be watching as we move forward here over the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for more. We have a lot coming up, including a winter forecast preview, which we're going to announce later this week, the date and time that we're going to be releasing that only to premium members. So check it out. And also, by the way, if you are registered for the dashboard and you're checking everything out, we do have more detailed breakdowns of the Northeast United States weather coming today with a idea of what's going to happen, really focusing on the next several days, not necessarily looking out to the weeks like we are doing here. So hope this helped you guys out. If you have any questions or comments, you're always welcome to contact us. We're here 24/7. Other than that, we hope you have a great Wednesday, and we will talk to you guys soon. Take care.